Chapter 11. The next few weeks were filled with activity for Alyssa. She and her sisters went through their parents' house and organized everything. They donated many items of clothing and divided treasures up between them. Some of the furniture they decided they wanted to keep for the lake house, and others they sold in an estate sale. It felt to Alyssa that every minute she wasn't working, she was doing something to get ready for the move, including selling her parents' house, her own, Taylor's, and Amanda's. Kayla was a house flipper, so she lived in whatever property she was fixing up at any given time. She wouldn't be quite done when the other sisters were, so she would stay behind and finish the house before she put it up for sale. They had a target move date of April 15th, which gave them just a month after the funeral to get everything ready. Alyssa stopped working out with Barbie, no longer needing the validation that came from working out with her. She was happy to never have to see the woman again. She was sure she would keep up some form of exercise, but torturing herself no longer needed to be on the agenda. On the day before the sale closed on her parents' house in Kaysville, the five of them went there and made sure it was cleaned and ready to go. They could have hired someone to do it, and even discussed that option, but they decided they wanted to do it together. They'd grown up in that house, and selling it was hard for all of them. Splitting the house up into sections, each sister took a section, and they worked side by side, doing the type of cleaning their mother had taught them to do as children. When they finished, Lauren hurried out to her car and brought in plates and napkins. "We're having one more pizza party in the middle of the living room floor. I have a picnic blanket in my old room." Kayla went to get the blanket, and they spread it out while they waited for the pizza to arrive. "I can't believe how good you look," she said to Alyssa as they all sat down for their feast. Alyssa smiled. She'd put on 5 pounds, and when she looked in a mirror, she could see that her cheeks were rounder and her face looked softer. "I still work out, but I'm not working myself into a frenzy. And I'm eating like a normal person again. No more twigs." They all laughed at that. "You really do look so much better than you did. I think Tim would have made you starve yourself, and he still would have thought you were too heavy to be seen with him." Amanda shook her head. "But look at you now. As beautiful as ever." Alyssa blushed and changed the subject. "So, this house closes tomorrow. Amanda's house closes Tuesday, and Taylor's on Wednesday." There had been so much packing done in the past month across different homes that they all felt a little achy all the time. There wouldn't be as much room as they would need at the lake house, so the sisters rented out a large storage unit, and all of their things were there, with boxes clearly labeled so they wouldn't forget whose box was whose. "And when does yours close again?" Taylor asked Alyssa. "I know you have to love us to let all of us move in with you this week. I love you a lot until the novelty of feeling like sisters again wears off. I'm sure we'll be at each other's throats in a month like we were when we were little girls." Alyssa hoped she was wrong as she picked up a slice of pizza. The house looked so different than they were used to. It was now completely devoid of furniture, and the curtains were even taken down. It was strange to think it would be their last time in that house. Alyssa had her first kiss on the front porch, with her little sisters peeking out the window at her. "I'd say I don't see that happening," Taylor said, "but I sure remember how bossy you can get." They'd all agreed that Taylor would need to be in charge of the bed and breakfast. She had the training, after all. "I'm the oldest. I'm supposed to be bossy," Alyssa said, grinning at her. "I was just thinking that my first kiss was on that doorstep. All of us took our first steps in this house. Why don't we have the emotional attachment to this place that we have to the lake house? I think it's because this was the place we did our homework. Where we had to go to school every day. Where we did our chores. The lake house was the fun place where we all wanted to be all the time," Amanda said. She'd obviously already given the subject some thought. "Maybe," Taylor said, shrugging. I'm not sure why it is, but the lake house has a lot more meaning for me as well. So, my house sells on Monday, Alyssa said. I figure Monday afternoon, we all get in our cars and drive up to the lake. The mover will be at my place at noon Monday, and they're going to pack it all up. We'll caravan. They couldn't drive together, because they all would want their cars when they got up to the lake. Unlike Salt Lake City, there was no public transportation at the lake. They had made a few trips up with boxes and put them into the garage, but none of the sisters had actually stayed at the lake house since the decision had been made. They planned to modernize the kitchen and redo some of the bathrooms. The house was already perfect for what they were planning, though. There were 12 bedrooms, and even if they each lived there, which they would initially, but probably not forever, there would still be 7 rooms for guests. The house had been built with the entire extended family in mind. Aunts, uncles, and cousins had piled into the house with them for 2 weeks every summer, which was why they had such good memories. There were 3 garages with 2 bays each, and they had already had a small parking lot poured off to one side of the house. That had been one of the toughest decisions they'd made, because their mother would have been mortified to know they had taken away some of her garden space. Still, it was for the best. I'm excited to sleep at the lake house on Monday night, Lauren said. I feel like it's been forever since we all went up there as a family. I almost asked for that for my graduation from Utah State in December, but I didn't want it to be a hardship for all of you, and driving there in the snow is always a hardship. I have news for you, Lauren, Alyssa said. It's still snowing up there now. We're going to have snow for a while yet, and we're going to be living there in the winters. Snow will happen, just like it happens here. But we're getting snowmobiles, Lauren said. I think we should have them for people to rent. We might as well make the money rather than letting someone else have their business. True, Taylor said. I have lots of ideas for running the place. I'm so excited to have a bed and breakfast where all of the owners are related to me and I have a say in renovations. This is a dream come true for me. Alyssa looked at her sister with a smile. It was nice to be able to help her with her dream. She herself would still be selling real estate, but she would be doing it in a slower-paced world. And truly, she couldn't wait to see what came of Hannah's bookstore. Her friend had already quit working at the grocery store, and she was no longer cleaning on the weekends. She wasn't sure if she'd broken ground yet, but she knew it would be happening soon. The last meal at the house where they'd grown up turned into another kind of celebration for all of them. A celebration of their lives changing and them giving up all of their old dreams to make new ones. They all went their separate ways after supper, except for Lauren, who went home with Alyssa. As they got into Lauren's vehicle, Alyssa sank back into the seat. I think it's best you haven't found a job yet, Alyssa said. You'll be able to do some of the work at the Band B. Alyssa knew she herself wouldn't be working there, and neither would Kayla. Taylor would be there full-time, and they were thinking that Lauren would as well. Amanda would work there long enough to get the Band B ready to open, but then she'd be looking for other work as well. Probably. I can clean rooms, and maybe I can figure out how to make breakfast interesting. I've always enjoyed cooking, and with my liberal arts degree, I have the ability to read cookbooks. Alyssa laughed. You have the ability to do a whole lot more than read cookbooks. I know. But if I can't make a joke out of my liberal arts degree, then who can? Lauren drove calmly through the city. Are you worried about leaving your job? Not at all. I still have closing scheduled for another month out, so I'll have income coming in. Not that any of us really need immediate income, but it's nice to not feel like a wastrel. I hate the idea of having to study for tests all over again, but I'll do it because I love what I do. I guess I could sell in Garden City, because I'm already licensed in Utah, but I like the idea of being able to work in the entire area. All of Bear Lake. Makes sense to me. Lauren shook her head. I can't believe we've gotten so much done in just a month. I guess it just goes to show that the five of us together can do absolutely anything we set our minds to. Alyssa smiled at that. We can. When Lauren pulled into the driveway in front of Alyssa's house, she spotted Tim's car, and she groaned. Tim's here. Alyssa sighed. I wonder what he wants. I haven't seen anything of him since the day the will was read. Do you want me to get rid of him? Lauren asked. I know karate, kung fu, and several other Japanese words. Laughing, Alyssa shook her head. I'll deal with him. I'm not leaving you alone with that jerk, Lauren said, getting out and walking over to Tim with her sister. What can I do for you, Tim? Alyssa asked, keeping her voice cordial. I miss you. What would it take for you to take me back? He wasted no time getting to the point. I'm afraid that ship has sailed. There's no way I'm taking you back. I'm moving next week, and I'm ready to start fresh. Alyssa didn't bother to soften her words with him. Tim narrowed his eyes. Is there a man there? Are you dating someone already? Alyssa shook her head. Of course not. I'm opening a bed and breakfast with my sisters, and I'm going to be happy. You are you? He asked. Yes, I am. And nothing you can say or do is going to stop me. Tim frowned at her. I can't believe you're treating me this badly. Lauren could no longer hold her tongue. She's treating you badly? You have got to be kidding me. You've mentally abused her for years, and you're going to get off her property, or I'm calling the cops. She grabbed her sister's upper arm and pulled her toward the door. And no, you can't have more money. Lauren unlocked the door and walked in with her sister, slamming it behind her. That man has some nerve. I hope I never lay eyes on him again. You and me both. Alyssa was proud of herself, though. She'd been strong and clear she wasn't getting back with him, and she hadn't even wanted to. It was a huge step in the right direction. Chapter 12. Alyssa closed on her house as soon as the title company opened on Monday morning. She'd had her house for several years, but she certainly wasn't as tied to it as she was to the lake house. Still, she was sad to let it go, but excited at the same time. She was getting a new start with the people she loved more than anything. It was time for sister power. She'd signed the last document, assisted by Jennifer Whitcomb, a woman she'd worked with the entire time she'd been a real estate agent. They were both well aware this was their last closing together, and they were emotional. When she signed in the last space, she lifted her hand and rubbed her wrist. Wow. I can't believe I make people sign their name that many times on a regular basis, Alyssa joked. Well, you're really going to be missed around here. Jennifer turned and grabbed a big basket filled with healthy snacks. We put this together for you to wish you safe travels and a wonderful new life with your sisters. Alyssa hugged the girl, and she found herself hugging 3 more people on her way out. Thanks, everyone, for the sweet gift. I'm going to miss all of you. She left amidst choruses of goodbye. She knew it wouldn't be the last time she saw them all, but it would certainly not be a weekly thing any longer. Keeping her real estate license in Utah was part of her plan. If she ever needed to come back, she could, though she couldn't imagine that happening at the moment. She drove home, knowing her sisters were waiting for her. All of their homes had been closed on, and all of them except Kayla planned to make the drive up to Bear Lake together. Kayla had a month of work to do at the house, and she would join them in Bear Lake as soon as it was finished. At Alyssa's house, there was already a moving truck, and things were being loaded into it. Lauren had taken the lead, telling the movers which things to load in first, because they were going into storage. Alyssa parked at the curb, watching her baby sister bossing around the moving men for a little while, and then she got out of the car. She looked lovingly at the house. It had been her first big purchase after completing her training to be a real estate agent, and she had been so proud of it. She'd moved from her parents' home into this one, and it felt strange to be leaving it behind. She knew she was being overly sentimental, but she couldn't help it. She walked over to Lauren, smiling at her kid sister. "Thanks for being the bossy little thing you are." Lauren grinned. "I'm happy to be bossy if it helps. I'm going to go in and start vacuuming the rooms they've finished." Alyssa wasn't looking forward to doing a good cleaning of the house, but it was required. "Taylor's already doing that." "Okay, then I'll go in and scrub out the oven and fridge." Lauren shook her head. "I did that as soon as you left this morning." "Bathrooms? Kitchen floor?" "All done. We split the work between us, because you let us all stay here while we were getting ready to start our new adventure." Lauren put her arm around Alyssa. "Just sit back and enjoy the show." "The show?" Alyssa asked. "Well, the youngest guy is pretty darn cute. I just wish it was hot enough that he had to take his shirt off." Alyssa laughed. "Maybe you should spill something on him." She walked into the now mostly empty house and went from room to room, loving the colors she'd painted different things. Her curtains had been removed, and all of her special little touches were gone. Packed away and sent to storage. Only the things she would truly need were going to the new house. For a moment, she felt her heart beat faster as she wondered how she was going to manage, but she knew she could. She'd have her sisters at her sides. As soon as the movers had the truck all packed up, Alyssa, Lauren, Amanda, and Taylor walked through every room in the house, making sure nothing important had been left behind. So many memories had been made in the house, and they were leaving that, too. Alyssa felt a bit panicked that they were leaving everything they knew behind to start this new adventure, but when she looked at her sisters' faces, she knew they were doing the right thing. They had to be. They each had a suitcase with several days' worth of clothes and toiletries in their cars, and they were as ready as they were going to get. "All right. Let's get this show on the road. I do want to stop in Logan for supplies, because they'll be so much cheaper than in Bear Lake. I'm sure we'll do most of our shopping locally, but this one last time, Logan will work." Alyssa led the way out of the house, locking her door for the very last time. A lovely couple with 3 children was moving in, and they would make their own memories there. She swiped away a tear as she went to her car. Remember, cell phones on at all times. If someone needs to stop, honk, and we'll all stop. She wished they could ride together, but they would all need cars at their new home. "See you all in Logan." Logan was the halfway point between Salt Lake City and Bear Lake. They would stop there for some food, fuel, and groceries. Alyssa led the way, pulling away from the curb and waiting as each of her sisters fell into line behind her. She knew this was the right thing, but it still broke her heart to do it. An hour and a half later, Alyssa pulled into Olive Garden in Logan, and all the other sisters followed suit. She got out of the car to stretch her legs, wishing she hadn't done so much packing leading up to the move. She was sore, and she was going to be for a few days. The 4 of them walked into the restaurant and were seated at the back. "I'm glad we decided on a late lunch. I don't want to be overrun with college kids," Lauren said, shaking her head. Logan was a college town, but given the fact that Lauren was a recent grad, the other 3 found her statement very funny. Amanda was the one who pointed out what she'd said, though. "You act like college students are such a pain. You know you were one just a few months ago, right? I feel like I acted more mature than college students do today." Alyssa shook her head. "I love you, but you're crazy." The waitress stopped there then, a big grin on her face. She'd obviously heard what Alyssa said. "Sisters, right?" All 4 siblings nodded. "Sure are," Taylor said. She looked at the others. Are we all done deciding what we want? She was obsessed with keeping them on schedule. There was so much to be done before they could open the band bee. Every one of them nodded. All right. Give me your drink orders first, and then I'll take the food orders. An hour later, they were back on the road, but only for a short distance, heading to Walmart next. I hate Walmart, Lauren said, frowning. Do we have to shop here? Yes, Alyssa responded. And everyone is supposed to hate Walmart. It's a requirement for living in the United States. But they always have the best prices, and that's what we need. Ugh. By the time they reached Bear Lake, they were all exhausted. Alyssa pulled into the driveway of the house where they'd spent so much time, and she felt her excitement build. She was finally home. Getting out, each sister carried in her personal things, and Alyssa took the key and unlocked the door. The house was a little messy. It never occurred to me that Mom and Dad were actually staying here when they died. She walked through the house, putting a couple of glasses into the dishwasher, picking up her mother's reading glasses. So many little things that reminded them of what they'd lost. When she reached the master bedroom, Alyssa was surprised to see that the bed wasn't made. Her mother had always harped on them about keeping their beds made, and when no one was looking, she didn't make her own. She wished her mother was there so she could tease her, and for so many other reasons. Are you taking the master? Taylor asked her from behind. I don't care. Does it matter? Alyssa asked. She knew that her sisters considered it hers by right because she was the oldest. Taylor shrugged. Because there's a cubby hole where a desk can be put, I was kind of hoping you wouldn't mind if I took it. I'll be the one running the place, and having this room would make things just a bit easier for me. Alyssa nodded. I think things would be easier for me if you took the room. I'll go to the one next door. The house was just as they all remembered. There was a living room on the first floor and a family room on the second. Each story had 6 bedrooms. There were 7 bathrooms on each floor. Above the kitchen was a huge room that they'd used as a playroom over the years. It was a room that really wasn't necessarily meant to be anything, but there had been more slumber parties on that floor than any of the girls could remember. It hadn't really been updated since the 90s, so many things were out of date. Alyssa could see there was a lot of work to be done before they opened it up for business. Alyssa walked out onto the back deck, breathing in the chilly mountain air. I can't believe that I actually feel a little out of breath. We're only about 1,000 feet higher than Salt Lake City here, aren't we? Lauren was standing beside her, looking out at the lake. Yeah, but Salt Lake is high, too. That's true. Alyssa leaned on the deck after knocking the snow that clung to the railing away. Just think. In another 6 weeks that lake is going to be filled with boats and people. I love that we can be here during the off-season, and I kind of hope we can help there to be no off-season. I think with our ideas for snowmobiles and cross-country skiing, this place can be hopping year-round. That's certainly the goal, Taylor said, stepping out to join them with Amanda on her heels. I have so many ideas, and I want to make them all work right now. But first, I think we need to have the kitchen redone. I wish we could wait for Kayla, but if we want it done before tourist season, we need to act now. Very true. Alyssa knew they wanted to get things going soon. Getting tourists in there quickly would make them realize they'd done the right thing. Do you want me to see if Hannah knows anyone? Or should I just put an ad online? She told me that there's a Bear Lake Classifieds on Facebook, and I could put something there. Ask Hannah. I'd rather get a recommendation of someone who would work hard for us than just stabbing in the dark. I will. I want to have supper with her tonight anyway. She took the night off so she could come over and we could talk. And we'll eat somewhere. Probably Cooper's, Amanda said with a grin. Only if it won't make her crazy to eat at her place of employment on her night off. Alyssa pulled out her phone and looked at the time. It was already getting dark. I need to call her and let her know we're here. Then we can figure out where to eat. She stepped back into the house and went to the living room, noting that the decor really needed to be updated as well as the kitchen. They wanted the latest appliances, not something that would break down. "Hello?" Hannah said. "Please tell me you're in Richland." "I'm at the lake house," Alyssa said. Hannah had grown up in a house a couple of streets over, and the two girls had met the summer before they both started kindergarten. From then on, as soon as the family made it to Richland, Alyssa had gone straight to Hannah's house, and they had been inseparable. Now it was hard to believe it had been 5 years since they'd seen each other in person. "I'm on my way." Alyssa looked at her phone, realizing Hannah had ended the call. No matter. She had moved a little further away, but she was still within a 2-minute drive. Alyssa hurried into the bathroom and ran a brush through her hair. A night out with Hannah was just what she needed. "I'll bring her back here right after supper," Alyssa called to her sisters, feeling a little guilty for abandoning them on their first night. "We'll be here," Taylor said. "I'm walking through the house and figuring out what needs to be updated first. We have a lot to do, and we don't have much time to get it all done." The doorbell rang, and Alyssa ran for the door, throwing it open. "Hannah!" The two friends embraced. "I missed you so much," Hannah said, tears streaming. "I'm so sorry about your parents." "Me too." Alyssa looked behind her and saw Lauren. "We'll be back after supper, and we'll all catch up." Lauren nodded and watched as the two friends hurried out the door. Chapter 13. Alyssa was so happy to have time to spend with Hannah that she could barely contain herself. She hurried out and got into the passenger seat of her friend's old, beat-up pickup truck. If she remembered correctly, it was the same truck Hannah had driven when they were teens. "Okay, so tell me all about where you are in the process of opening the bookstore." Alyssa turned to her friend as much as she could while buckled. "It's slow going. I found a site, but we need to pour the concrete, and we can't do that until the ground is unfrozen." Hannah shrugged. "I have the money to do it all now, thanks to your parents, and I'm starting to work with an architect to draw out exactly what I'm looking for." "So, when do you think you'll be able to open?" Alyssa hated that her friend was having to wait. It could be another 6 weeks before the snow was completely over for the year. Idaho was not known for early springs. It's probably going to be at least December. More likely in the spring. It depends on weather and all that good stuff. It's okay, though, because I'm no longer working 100 hours a week to make it happen. Now we're waiting on Mother Nature to smile at me. That works, then. "Where are we going for supper?" Alyssa asked. "Oh, I'm taking you to Cooper's. My treat. I want to sit and talk about nothing and everything. 2 subjects that suit me just fine. So, tell me about the band bee. I love that you guys are doing it, but are all of you going to be part of running it?" "Absolutely not. I'm still going to be a real estate agent. I love the work too much to give it up. I'm going to start studying for my test bright and early Wednesday morning." Alyssa couldn't imagine trying to make all the decisions that would need to be made if they all had to have a say in everything. Taylor is going to manage the place because she has the experience, and it was her idea. For now, I think Lauren is going to work with her, cleaning rooms and making breakfasts. Sounds good. Hannah turned off the main road, heading toward the restaurant. Kayla is going to do maintenance for the house and any renovations that need to be done, but she plans on continuing flipping houses. I wouldn't be surprised if she quit selling them and started renting them out as Airbnbs, but she hasn't said those are the plans. Amanda is going to work her magic on the house, but she'll be hiring out for other jobs as well. Alyssa shrugged. "We'll all keep doing what we do best, but we'll be living together." At least in the beginning. Hannah parked the truck, and they both hopped down. I think that all makes a whole lot of sense. It would be hard for all of you to work together all the time as well as live together. I remember some major fights when you were up here every summer. It might be best to try to avoid those. You mean like the time Kayla got mad at Amanda and cut her hair while she was sleeping? Hannah laughed. Exactly like that. Might be best that you're all going to have jobs outside of the band bee. Probably. I'm looking forward to exploring the area as an adult. I want to go to the ghost town between Soda and Lava. Chesterfield, I think? I want to go to the Oregon Trail Museum in Montpelier. I'm so excited to be back here where I've always felt like I belong. I'm just glad to have you back. It feels like it's been forever since we've just hung out together. Hannah looked as excited about their move as Alyssa felt. We were both working, and it's harder when you're an adult. It is. Hannah smiled at the hostess. Two of us. Sure, this way. The girl led them to the back of the restaurant and around a corner. This good? Thanks, Marianne. No problem. Marianne hurried away, leaving them alone with their menus. I haven't been here in forever. Is the food the same as it used to be? Alyssa asked. Nothing in Bear Lake ever changes. You know that as well as I do. Then I'm getting a bacon cheeseburger. I remember them from when I was a kid, and I loved them so much. Alyssa closed her menu and looked at her friend. So, I want to know all there is to know about Hannah. Are you seeing anyone? No one. I haven't really had time to date since high school. I was just working way too many hours to even think about it. That makes sense, I guess. You don't have your eye on anyone? Alyssa hoped that having the money she needed would let Hannah slow down just a little. She hated to see her friend practically work herself to death. Hannah laughed. All I've had my eye on is the prize, and I'm so close to getting there now, I can taste it. She took a sip of the water that had been placed in front of both of them. So, I'm surprised Tim let you move away. Alyssa's eyes widened. I didn't tell you? Tim and I broke up the day the will was read. Right after I talked to you on the phone actually. He came by, and I broke it off. And then he asked for money. Alyssa shook her head. Taylor walked up behind me and closed the door on his foot. It was awesome. Hannah grinned. I so wish I'd been there to see that. I would have given his foot a good stomp. Would have gone well with the door closing on it. You know, that was a thought. I wish I'd come up with it at the time. And you haven't heard from him since? Hannah asked. Oh, he stopped by the house once, and he's called a few times. I ignore it. I have nothing left to say to him. Nothing at all. Alyssa knew it was such a change for her after she'd done everything she could to become the woman he wanted her to be. What made you change your mind? Alyssa sighed, noticing the waitress was there. After they'd given their orders, she answered her friend's question. When the police came and told me about Mom and Dad, I knew I needed to talk to someone right away. Someone who could be sympathetic without really knowing my parents. I needed an impartial person to just cry to. Well, yeah. I get that. Hannah took another sip of her water, wondering where this was all going. I called him, and he got on to me for calling so late, even though he was at a party. And he told me I should have called my sisters, like I was a stupid child. It still took my sisters ganging up on me and telling me to dump him to actually do it, but I did, and it's all over now. Alyssa leaned back in the hard, wooden chair. I'm so glad I made the decision. Now I'm free to be here. Although, he probably would have liked it better if we'd stayed together, and I was here and he was there. Oh, that's awful. I hope you don't really believe that. How on earth did you end up with a jerk like him anyway? He was so nice at first. And complimentary. I truly thought he was the man of my dreams, but it's obvious that I was wrong. And now I've opened my eyes and broken things off. Hannah shook her head. It's about time. Alyssa wasn't sure how to respond to that, but she did know that Hannah had her best interests at heart. Oh, I just remembered that my sisters wanted me to ask you if you knew of anyone who could help us with some remodeling stuff. Kayla had to stay in Salt Lake to finish the house she was working on, and she probably won't join us for at least another month. We would like to open on the 1st of June, so we have to move fast. You know what? I think I do know someone. He was a couple grades ahead of us in school, and I went out with him a few times, but there was absolutely no spark between us. His name is Nick Piot. Name doesn't ring a bell with me. Alyssa knew a lot of kids from the area simply because she'd spent so much time there. Not everyone, though. I'll have him give you a call in the morning. I know you'll be happy with his work, and he's very reasonable. Works hard to make his clients happy. Sounds like exactly what we're looking for. I was going to post in the Bear Lake classifieds on Facebook, but I wanted someone who came with a recommendation. So, thanks for that. After their meal, they went back to the lake house, and Hannah went in to see Alyssa's sisters. She was invited to sit with them in the living room, and they all reminisced for hours. Finally, Hannah got to her feet to leave. I know I'm not really working in the morning, but I do need to go see my architect. I keep requesting changes to his drawings, and I think I'm slowly driving him insane. I need what I need, though. Alyssa walked her to the door, hugging her close. Don't be a stranger. I feel like I just got my best friend back after a long walk through the desert. Or is it a long swim through the lake? Either way, I've missed you, and I'm glad I have you back. Welcome home, Alyssa. I hope you're as happy here as you've always dreamed you would be. Alyssa smiled. How could I not be with my best friend in the whole world right here with me? You just remember that when you feel the need for a McDonald's burger. Or Chick-fil-A. We're sparse on places to eat out up here. If I feel that strong an urge, I'll put my butt in my car and drive to Logan. It's not that far. I hope you always feel that way. Hannah winked at her. See you very soon. Maybe this weekend? Sounds great. We'll grill out. Just let me know when, and I'll be here. Will do. Alyssa watched Hannah hurry to her car and drive away before joining her sisters in the living room. Being back here feels so right. That's because we're right back where we belong. Taylor sighed, putting her feet up on an ottoman. We're living the lake life again. Chapter 14. Nick decided to go see Ryan at the hardware store to see if he had heard of any jobs he could do. There had been a few little ones in the past few weeks, but he needed something big. A kitchen remodel, or better yet a whole house, to sink his teeth into. In the weeks since he'd kicked Cammy out, he only felt relief. She'd picked her things up from his front porch on the specified day, and he'd only gotten to burn the pictures of the two of them together. He would have preferred to burn everything she owned, but she'd taken that option away from him. She'd taken a lot of options away from him in their time together. He hadn't worked since the Friday before, and it was Tuesday. Sure, that was only a 3-day weekend, but it was more time off than he'd had in a while, and he was desperate to get paint under his fingernails. For him, it wasn't about the money, well, not all about the money anyway. The work revitalized him and kept him going. He was halfway to the hardware store to talk to Ryan when a call came in. Pressing a button, he answered it hands-free in his truck. Hello? Hey, Nick. It's Hannah. My dearest friend and her sisters just moved to the lake, and they want to fix up their house to turn it into a band B. One of the younger sisters has the knowledge and ability, but she's not going to join for a month or two. You interested? Definitely. What's the house? He didn't even have to hear where it was to get excited. He wanted to do this. It sounded like the kind of big project that would be good for him. The Romriell house. I'm sure you've heard talk of them. Some are people at the lake, and they want to make it into the best band B in the area. Nick grinned. I've never been on the inside, but that house is amazing. I saw that they poured concrete. Is that for a parking lot? It is. You should head over there today. My friend and 3 of her sisters are there. None of them are going to come on to me, are they? He asked. He didn't want to think about being in a house alone with 4 women. After his recent experience, the very idea turned his stomach. Hannah laughed. No, they won't. Head on over and see who's there. My friend is Alyssa if you want someone to ask to talk to. Otherwise, talk to whomever opens the door. They're all part of this. All right. Nick made a 3-point turn and headed back toward the Romriell house. His hands were already itching to get started. The house was amazing, and he was sure anything that he could do to make it better would thrill him and the women. I'm on my way. You want her cell number? She asked. Nah, I'm driving. I'll just stop in. He didn't have far to go, and within minutes he was parking in the driveway of the biggest house in Richland. A house that dreams were made of. When he rang the bell, he had to wait for a minute before a young brunette came to the door. She stared at him for a moment, confusion on her face. What can I help you with? I hear you're turning this place into a band B. I was told to come talk to Alyssa. Nick hoped she'd just let him in, because he was dying to see the house, but she stood there for a minute, just looking at him. Lauren, who's here? A voice from behind the young woman, Lauren, asked. Some guy who says he's supposed to talk to you about turning the house into a band B. I didn't know we'd even contacted anyone. Lauren said, still looking at him skeptically. Nick smiled. Hannah told me to come by. Oh. Lauren was gently pushed out of the way, and another brunette, older and prettier than the last, was looking at him. Hannah told me she'd have someone call me. I wasn't expecting you to just show up. I'm Alyssa. She offered her hand to shake, and he noticed then she was in a robe that was tied tightly in front of her. We just moved in yesterday, so it's still a bit of a mess, but come in, and we'll talk about what we want to do. Alyssa looked over at Lauren, who was still standing there looking at him, a pancake turner in her hand. I'll get the others. You entertain him. Lauren frowned at him. How do you want me to entertain you? I could do a little song and dance or something. Alyssa turned just before starting up a beautifully curved flight of stairs. Lauren. Fine. Lauren pasted a smile on her face. Come in. I'll show you to the living room, and we'll sit and chat about the weather, because I'm not sure what anyone wants done yet, and then when my sisters get here to talk to you, they can tell me to run along and play. Stepping into a huge foyer, Nick was amazed already. The tile and intricate woodwork fascinated him. He could put a counter along one wall to greet and check in guests, and it wouldn't even begin to feel cramped. He wanted to start measuring immediately, but he wasn't sure how Lauren would react, and she was obviously in charge of him for the next little bit. Nick laughed. You must be the youngest. You got that right. Lauren led him to a spacious living room with a large screen television against one wall and more seating than he would have thought necessary for a family. Have a seat. He sat down, leaning back against the cushions for a moment. Whatever they were doing with the place, they needed to keep the couch. It was the most comfortable piece of furniture he'd been on in ages. You don't really have to entertain me. Finish making your breakfast. I'll play with my phone. That would be great. I don't mean to be rude, but I was about to start making some scrambled eggs for my sisters and myself, and then the doorbell rang, completely throwing me off course. Sit here, and someone will be here soon. Lauren rushed from the room, twirling the utensil in her hand. Instead of sitting like a good boy, Nick wandered around the room, studying the walls and the structure of the building. He was even more excited to start now that he was inside. Hopefully he'd get the job, though he didn't know exactly what the women were hoping for. If it meant working in that house, he wanted to do it. He was looking at a built-in bookshelf when he heard someone clear their throat behind them. I guess Lauren abandoned you? I told her I was capable of taking care of myself, and that's what I'm doing. This house is absolutely amazing. Nick turned around to see Alyssa watching him. She smiled. I've always thought so. My sisters will be down in a minute. She waved a hand toward the sofa again. I'd love to start by telling you a little about what we're wanting to do here, if you don't mind. I don't mind at all. He sat down, smiling when she did the same. He was a little disappointed that she'd changed her robe for sweatpants and a t-shirt, but he'd have to adjust. This house was built by our parents shortly after I was born so they would have a place to escape Salt Lake City during summers. They made sure it was big enough for all of our aunts, uncles, and cousins. There are 6 bedrooms and 7 bathrooms on each floor. We're going to want each bedroom to have a lock installed on the door, to which we'll retain a master key, and we want to make certain that each bathroom is in good working order. While the construction work is being done, my 4 sisters and I will be living in the house. Well, 3 sisters until we're joined by Kayla, who is the only one of us who has any construction skills or experience. She is a house flipper, but she's not finished with the house she's working on, so she will be here when she is. I see. He studied the woman across from him carefully. She was beautiful, and he wanted to ask if she came with the house, but after Cammie, he was a little too skittish around beautiful women for that. So, you want the bathrooms redone? We want to start with the kitchen, she said. It is a great kitchen, but it hasn't been redone since it was built in the early 90s. My sisters and I haven't had much chance to talk about exactly what we're looking for, but my sister Amanda is an interior designer, and I know she went through the house last night making some notes. Yes, I did, said another feminine voice, and Nick's eyes gravitated to yet another beautiful brunette. The Romriell girls were all lookers. There was no doubt about that. I'm Amanda. She walked in and sat down on a chair, pulling out a notebook. The first order of business is definitely the kitchen. We want a commercial dishwasher installed, and I have marked the one I'm interested in. If you can't get it at a discount through your suppliers, then I can through mine. We want the old, ugly linoleum taken out and ceramic tile to take its place. The walls need a new coat of paint, in a more appealing color, and I'd like the cabinets ripped out and new ones put in. I've drawn up what I'm looking for in each of those things. We'll also need a new 6-burner stove and a new wall oven. A kitchen island with a sink in it, so 2 of us can work on meals at once. There are a few other things, but that's the beginning. Are you capable of doing all of that? He smiled. I most certainly am. I'd love to see the kitchen. He hoped they'd let him start immediately. This was the kind of project he'd been practicing for his entire career. Alyssa shook her head. I think Nick here has designs on our home. I definitely do. I've seen this house a million times growing up in town, and I always wanted to see the inside. Now I'm seeing it, and I want to touch everything, and, Nick shrugged. I love this house. We do, too, Amanda said. That's why we want to make sure you're the right man for the job. Alyssa looked over at Amanda. Did you and Taylor go over everything last night? Is there anything she thinks is more important to start out? Amanda shook her head. We went over it, and she's happy with my plans. She also wants a commercial washer and dryer, but that won't be in Nick's realm. Yet another sister walked in then, and Nick was starting to get a little nervous. There was no way he was going to be able to tell them all apart. Their hair was the same shade. Alyssa had big brown eyes, though, and the others had lighter eyes. At least he could pick her out from the others. That's right. I'm very on board with Amanda's plans. I think she's got great taste. I just wish we could agree on a theme for the guest rooms. She sat down in yet another chair and looked at him. Nick felt a bit like he was surrounded. That works. When do we want to get started? Today, Taylor said emphatically. Are you currently working a job? I finished one Friday. I'm happy to start whenever you're ready for me. Nick was excited, thanking God this had dropped into his lap when it did. He still couldn't believe his good fortune. He was willing to do anything he had to do to get this job. Let's have you work a bit up on the kitchen, then. We don't have unlimited funds to make this happen, Alyssa said, getting to her feet and leading him toward the kitchen. When Nick stepped into the kitchen, he couldn't help but smile. The room was huge, with a table for 8 at one end and seemingly endless cabinets and counter space. Are we leaving the counters as is? I'd prefer granite countertops, Amanda said, stopping next to Lauren. That smells good. What are you making? I call it breakfast. Lauren said as her sisters and the contractor swarmed her in the kitchen. Good choice, Alyssa said with a grin. Coffee? In the pot. I started that first thing. Alyssa helped herself to a mug. Coffee? She asked Nick. Sounds good. She poured 2 mugs of coffee, obviously not caring if her sisters had to get their own. What do you think? Give me an hour to check on some prices, and I'll give you an estimate. If I only supply labor, I can give you a cheaper price. I'll handle the supplies, then, Amanda said. I have suppliers in Salt Lake, and to save the money, I can drive down and get the materials if that makes things easier. It probably would. Nick looked around slowly as he sipped his coffee. I'm going to need to take some measurements and make some notes. He looked at Amanda. I'm assuming you want custom cabinets? Yes, absolutely. Can you build them yourself, or will you need to farm that out? Oh, I can do that myself. No problem at all. He smiled. Can I get started measuring now? After breakfast, Lauren said. You're eating with us, because I made extra. Nick grinned. He had left the cabin without breakfast that morning, having gotten into the habit of eating from a gas station with Cammy living there. That would be wonderful. Together, the 5 of them sat down to eat, and Nick only felt a little out of place. His eyes were on the remodel he would do, and he was thinking about exactly what the work would entail. He'd eaten 2 bites before he couldn't hold back his next question. When do you want the kitchen done by? Amanda and Taylor exchanged a look. We'd like to have it done within the next 2 weeks. We have a lot of work that needs to be done before we can open the Band B, and we're hoping to be able to open by June 1st. He choked a bit on his coffee. June 1st? I'm not sure that's possible. How long do you think the kitchen will take, then? Amanda asked. She wasn't going to back down on what they needed to change. If they were going to run a business out of the house, they had to be equipped for it. 3 weeks if I hurry? Do you object to paying a little extra for a rush job? I can work weekends if that'll help you, but no days off might make for a grumpy Nick. Grumpy or not, if you get the work done properly, we'll be happy. Alyssa took a bite of her scrambled eggs. Now you understand why we want you to start immediately. I do. He took a deep breath. As soon as breakfast is over, I'll get an estimate worked up. I'd like to start immediately after lunch, if possible. He was pretty sure the job was his, because he'd been recommended by Hannah, but more importantly, he was there, and no one else was. He needed to get to work right away. Sounds good. Alyssa seemed a little off to him, and he wasn't sure why. She was a beautiful woman, but something was going on there. I'm going for a run after breakfast. I trust my sisters to be here with you while I do. Lauren frowned at Alyssa, and Nick couldn't help but wonder why. A run? I've discovered in the past few years that I love to run, though I don't love lifting weights. So, I'm going to continue my runs. Alyssa shrugged, sipping her coffee. And I'm the oldest, so you don't get to worry about me. Try and stop me. Lauren grinned at Alyssa. That goes double for me, Taylor said softly. You're not leaving me out, Amanda said. Sisters worry about sisters, and it doesn't matter who is the oldest and who is the youngest. That's just how it works. I guess it is. Alyssa took another sip of her coffee and stood up. I'll be back in 30 minutes or so. I might run along the beach. There's not much of a beach right now. It's just snow. I would stick to the roads if I were you. Nick felt the need to warn her. Alyssa made a face. I might need to have a treadmill here. That will keep me running no matter the time of year. With those words, she disappeared out the front door, and Nick had to wonder why the others were worried when she went for a run. Seemed to him that running was good for a person. Chapter 15. As soon as Alyssa was outside the house, she breathed a sigh of relief. Her hormones were in a whirl after meeting Nick. She was a million times more attracted to the man than she had ever been to Tim, and spending time with the contractor was the last thing she needed. He was certainly good-looking, but it was more than that. Her instinct was to run from him, because she couldn't deal with another relationship with a man like Tim. She almost wanted to refuse whatever bid he gave them, just so she could avoid him, but contractors weren't that plentiful in Bear Lake. If his quote was good, they would have no choice but to accept it. She did wish her sisters hadn't made a fuss about her running in front of him, because it was none of his business why they didn't think she should run. All of her sisters had expressed to her, privately, that they were worried she was becoming anorexic after the time with Tim. She didn't think so, but she had to respect their worries. Still, she would have preferred if they hadn't spoken so freely in front of Nick. She stretched a little and started a slow jog down toward the lake, which was one of their property borders. She could see that Nick had been right, and there was no beach, only snow, so she decided to keep her run on the streets of the small town. It wouldn't be as fun, but she could run on the beach all summer long. She hoped. It had been known to snow in Bear Lake in June. Her favorite thing about running was allowing her thoughts to roam freely. She never tried to direct her brain to certain thoughts, and instead it was whatever jumped to the forefront. Alyssa knew a lot of people who preferred to run with an audiobook or music playing, but that kept her from what she needed. Being back in the small town was wonderful. She remembered each street well. Running past the house where Hannah had grown up, she smiled. They had spent a lot of time playing at her house so her cousins and sisters wouldn't bother them. Next, she ran past the shake place where Bear Lake raspberry shakes were made and sold. It had been a thing when they were kids to walk over there every day for a raspberry shake. Of course, Kayla had always insisted on chocolate shakes, which made no sense to Alyssa. Chocolate shakes were everywhere. Only in Bear Lake could you get raspberry shakes, or better yet, raspberry cheesecake shakes, to keep your taste buds jumping. She noted that the Shake Shack was closed until Memorial Day and frowned. They would have to figure out how to make raspberry shakes on their own. It was too much a highlight of being at the lake to miss out during the spring and winter. She kept running, moving on toward the elementary school. All the kids in the area went to this little school, but for junior high and high school, they were bused over to Montpelier like all the other kids in the country. She made a full circle around the elementary school and headed back toward the house, not sure if she was ready to be finished. Glancing down at her Apple Watch, she saw that she'd only gone 1.2 miles, and she wanted to do a full 4 miles before she was done. And she didn't want to do it because it had anything to do with her weight. It was for her health, and it just felt good to run. Despite what she'd always thought, when it became a habit, she actually started to enjoy it. She hadn't run much in the past few weeks as she'd dealt with the fallout of her parents' deaths and the decisions they'd made following them. Now she realized that she'd needed to have this time with her thoughts flowing freely. Every car she passed had a driver who waved at her, which was one of her favorite things about the small town. No one was a stranger to anyone, and eventually, she and her sisters would be considered locals and not just summer people. As she ran, she glanced at houses, noting when there was a for sale sign. There were so many different homes for sale in the area, and she knew most would end up being Airbnbs if they didn't get purchased by someone in the area. She could be someone purchasing a home in a month or two. The lake house would be a place she could always visit, but living with her sisters, though enjoyable for the short term, was not something she could do forever. Finally, she turned down the street to go right back home, and she smiled at the word home. She really did feel like she was finally home. She didn't go to the front door, and instead she went around back to the deck, knowing she wanted to sauna before she joined the others. She wanted to kick herself for not remembering to preheat the thing before she started running, but it didn't matter. Today was about reacquainting herself with the community and getting her things unpacked. Alyssa walked to the sauna to turn it on, thinking she was going to have to go to the kitchen for some water anyway, when she noticed someone had heated it up for her. Not only was it on, there were 3 bottles of water lying on the cover of the hot tub. All of them had water dripping down the sides, so she knew they were cold. She smiled, stripping down to her underwear. One of her sisters had definitely thought of her. She would have to remember to thank them when she was finished. Getting into the sauna, she set the egg timer they kept on the bench in there for 20 minutes. At first, the heat actually felt good after the cold from her run, but it didn't take 5 minutes before she was feeling too hot for comfort. She drank the bottles of water and wished she'd thought to bring her e-reader in. If she kept a bottle of cold water touching it at all times, she was sure the e-reader could be kept from overheating. The sauna was a decent size, meant for 6 people. Her parents and aunts and uncles had used it a lot when she was growing up, and she'd always thought they were crazy for cooking themselves. Since she'd done research on the benefits of using a sauna for 20 minutes 6 days a week, and she'd wished she had access to one. Well, now she did. She was sure she'd mentioned to Amanda that she was looking forward to using the sauna after exercising. It was probably her who had preheated it and left the water. When she got out, she shut the sauna off along with the light before putting her sweaty clothes back on. She went up the stairs to the bedroom she'd chosen for its view of the lake, and she stripped, getting into the shower. At that moment, she realized that this was her perfect morning routine for the lake. She'd eat, run, sauna, and then shower. Then she would start the studying she needed to do to get her real estate license transferred to Idaho. She'd already set up her test for May 7th, so she only had about 3 weeks to prepare, but that should be more than long enough. Once she was dressed in jeans and a hoodie, she went back downstairs, wondering if there was a bid yet. Surely Nick had enough time to get one ready for them. Nick. Even his name made her heart beat faster. She sighed. That was not what she needed right now. She'd focused way too much on her relationship with Tim for the last 7 years, and she was done with men for a while. It was time for her to focus on herself instead. She went into the kitchen, where her sisters were looking over a piece of paper while Nick was looking more closely at the entryway of the house. So, let me see. Amanda handed her the paper, and Alyssa blanched at the total for just the kitchen, but she knew Amanda knew a great deal more about what it should cost to do the work than she did. "Is that a good price?" Amanda nodded. "It's about half of what we'd pay for labor in Salt Lake. People here just work cheaper." She shrugged. "Now I want you to keep in mind that with materials, we're looking at double this cost, and I'll be driving to Salt Lake for the materials. All he's charging us for is his labor." "Wow." Alyssa looked at Taylor and Lauren. "What do you two think?" Taylor shrugged. "Amanda says it's a good deal, and I trust her. He said he'd do the work in 3 weeks, and that sounds reasonable. He'll be building cabinets off-site to get them ready to put in." "Lauren?" Alyssa asked. Lauren shrugged. "I think I know less about this than anyone else in this room. If you 3 all agree, then I agree, too." Amanda smiled at that. "I say we do it. He can get started ripping out cabinets and tearing up that ugly linoleum this morning. I'll place the order with my supplier in Salt Lake, and I'll plan to head down to pick up the supplies tomorrow. He said he'd carry them in if we fetch them. He offered to go get them, too, but I don't want him to miss a day of work when we need him so badly." Alyssa nodded. "That makes a lot of sense to me. Who is going with you? I don't want you driving more than 5 hours round trip tomorrow on your own." Amanda rolled her eyes. "Taylor? Lauren?" Lauren nodded. "I think Taylor should be here to keep doing her bookkeeping stuff and getting all of our ducks in a row. I'm expendable, so I'll go and help. My liberal arts degree in action." "Sounds good. I'd volunteer, but I want to start my studying for the Idaho test in the morning. I'll probably run through neighborhoods again. I'm trying to get a good feel for the real estate market in the area." Alyssa leaned back against the counter, pulling some junior mints from the pocket of her hoodie and popping a couple in her mouth. When she noticed Amanda smiling, she frowned at her. "What?" "I just think you're hilarious with the running and then the partaking of junior mints so close together." Amanda was obviously thrilled to see her eating the sweets. Alyssa shook her head, laughing. "I keep telling you guys, I don't have a problem. I just like to run, and if I keep up my running schedule, junior mints will never be a problem." She turned and saw that Nick had returned. "You're hired. Amanda's ordering what you'll need, and she and Lauren will drive down tomorrow to pick it up. We will still need to be able to cook in here some, so try not to destroy the entire kitchen. There'll be a few days where cooking is out of the question if you want it done that quickly," Nick warned her. "I guess we'll eat out those days. We'll figure something out. What can we do to help you get started?" He grinned. "Just stay out of the kitchen for now. I'll go get my crowbar and get to work." He was halfway out of the kitchen when he stopped short. "I really appreciate the opportunity to work on this house. It was kind of a beacon for all of us who grew up in the area, and it feels special." "Make sure you keep our trust," Alyssa said. "Hannah has complete faith in you, or you wouldn't be given the chance." She reached for a few more junior mints as he nodded and left the house. "That was a little harsh," Lauren said. "Why be rude?" "I wasn't being rude. I was setting realistic expectations. If he wants to complete the renovation of the entire house, he needs to do a good job on the kitchen. Plain and simple." Felt harsh. Lauren headed for the stairs. "I'm going to go and read a cookbook or 2. I want to make orange muffins for breakfast in the morning. That way, I'm earning my keep." "Your family. You don't need to earn your keep." Taylor called after her. "Sure, I do. Everyone else has a job to do every day. My turn." Lauren disappeared up the stairs, leaving the other 3 sisters standing there together. "Now, about themes for our guest rooms," Amanda said. I don't want just boring guest rooms. Themes are important to me. What do you have in mind? Taylor asked. Nick came back and the three of them headed into the living room. Let's finish this in here, so we're not in the way, Alyssa said. What ideas do you have? I want it to be something that's unique and not overdone. Well, I thought Broadway musicals could be fun. Each room with a different theme. Or we could do famous fictional lovers. Like Rhett and Scarlett or Anne and Gilbert or Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy or even Ross and Rachel. Amanda shrugged. I would love those ideas, but would everyone? We could do Disney movies or famous actors and actresses, too, Taylor suggested. All of that would work. Taylor, what do you think would keep people coming back? You're the expert on all that stuff, Alyssa said. Taylor thought for a moment. Maybe we could do famous books, she suggested. Then we could do famous couples, but also have some whimsy thrown in. Do a Gone with the Wind room and a Harry Potter room. You know kids would go nuts for the Harry Potter room if they were coming with their parents. Oh, I like that. Amanda said. I have goosebumps. She held her arm out to show her sisters. Me too. Alyssa said. A Sherlock Holmes room and a Carrie room with blood trickling down the walls. Taylor shook her head. No way are we doing Carrie, you psychopath. I'm not a psychopath. I'm using my creative energy here. Sorry you don't like a perfectly legitimate idea. Alyssa stuck her tongue out at her sister, realizing they could reduce her to childish behavior faster than anyone else on the planet. All three of them laughed. Could be fun, Amanda said. I'm going to get started, and I'll make a list. When the list is completed, we'll do a FaceTime call with Kayla, and we'll each get to vote for 7 room themes. Perfect. That was easy, Alyssa said with a grin. Easy for you to say, Amanda said, shaking her head. I've been wrestling with this for weeks. No more wrestling. Write down ideas, and we'll make it happen. Taylor grinned. I can't believe we're going to have our very own bed and breakfast. We'll have to throw out names for it on that call as well, Alyssa said. We can't just call it the bed and breakfast forever. Good idea. I'll make a note of that. Taylor pulled a notebook she'd taken to carrying everywhere with her from her pocket. We'll talk about this on the call. Let's plan for Saturday. I'll contact Kayla and check her schedule. Perfect. We're going to totally rock the bed and breakfast market. Amanda got to her feet. And now I'm going to go and make my order. Then they'll have it ready when we get there tomorrow. The excitement in Amanda's eyes was reflected in Taylor's as well. Alyssa had to wonder if her eyes held the same excitement, but she thought they probably did. This was the first thing she'd been truly excited about doing in a very long time.